السلام علیکم بینندگان عزیز، امیدوار هستم که در هر نقطه دنیا باشین خوش و آرام باشین. معذرت میخوایم در هفته گذشته متاسفانه که پدر کلانم فوت کرد و نتونستم که در پروگرام همراه شما باشم. از پیش همگی میخوایم که اگر شما یک سوره الفاتحه برای ارواحشان حتما بخوانین، بسیار خوش میشیم. تشکر بسیار زیاد از حوصله‌تان که امروز ما حوصله کردین و بازم ببخشیم که نبودیم در برنامه. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sadai Hack television programming for this weekend. I apologize for my absence last week. I lost my beloved grandfather. I ask that you please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for him and for all of those who we have lost during this pandemic. And we are so incredibly honored to have Uranisa Jane Faryad from the Adam Center with us again today. She has honored us every month with her presence and to come on the show and to discuss very important issues with us. This week, we will be discussing Ramadan preparation as we are 10 days away from our holy month. We would like to discuss some important tips that we can use throughout the month to better ensure that we make the best of the time, we have the best usage of the time. امروز بخیر اورنسا جان فریاد داریم از ویرجینیا ادم سنتر. همیشه لطف کرده ما یک دفعه همراه ما می باشد در برنامه. امروز می خواستیم که راجع به ماه مبارک رمضان که یک هفته بعد است بخیر یگان آمادگی بگیریم. بغیر از این که مثلا سعیست که ما غذا درست میکنیم، بسیاری چیزاست که جور میکنیم و سودا میخریم در هفته، این خو یک طرف یک آمادگی است. اما آمادگی دیگر رقم از نگاه روانی، از نگاه اسلامی بسیاری چیزای دیگر هستن که باید راجع بهش صحبت کنیم. And before we start, I also wanted to briefly talk about some reflections of last Ramadan. There was a sense of somberness. There was this shock of not being able to attend our beloved masajid. There was this feeling of uncertainty that loomed above all of us. It was very close to the beginning of the pandemic. So there was a lot of different things that we were experiencing. However, I do believe that for me personally, it was also a very beautiful Ramadan because it was the first time probably in my entire adult life that I was actually able to be home and to be able to keep up with my ibadah. It was a time where I was able to actually make my prayers on time, actually be able to reflect on what the essence of the month truly is. پارسال چون رمضان اول ما بود در پاندمیک ما اصلا هیچ در حالت شوک بودیم و جگرخون بودیم، متاثر بودیم که دروازه‌های خانه خدا برای ما بسته بود و نمیتونستیم که در مسجد خود بریم نماز خدا بخوانیم. اما نیامتش دی بود که کل ما خانه بودیم، دانستیم که با وقت خود نمازهای خدا بخوانیم، عبادت خدا پیش ببریم. اولین بار بود که دانستیم که اصلا فوکس خدا به سر از این ماه مبارک بیاریم. So now that we're in our second year of having a Ramadan program and of having a month of holiness during a pandemic, we definitely want to discuss this time, alhamdulillah, we are more prepared. We're getting our vaccinations. I got mine yesterday, alhamdulillah. And we are in a different place. Some of our masajid are open to a certain capacity. There are a lot of differences. So we're going to discuss how we can prepare for that. امسال بخیر رمضان ما انشالله بسیار مثل پارسال وره نمی باشه. یکان مسجد ها 25% اجازه میده و آل واکسین های خود میگیریم و انشالله آستاستا پس در حالت نرمال کوشش میکنیم که باشیم.
Fishta John, can you hold on 1 second? Because
Yes,
I gotta help her find her keys. So if you want to stop the recording.
So again, Uruna Sajan, thank you so much for joining us. If you could also share with us some of the reflections that you have from last Ramadan. بازم تشکر از این که امروی ما امروز هستین. اگه میخواستین ما رو شریک بسازین اما یگان فکرایی که داشتین در رمضان گذشته بسیار خوب میشه.
Thank you so much, First John, for having me on. It's always a pleasure being here with you every month. So, Ramadan is a month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us His mercy, His grace, and a time for us to really reflect on our connection to Him and get closer to Him and the Quran. And last year was a completely unique time. As you know, COVID completely changed so many things for us, and we had to figure out how we were going to manage things. And one thing I realized is that, the fasting didn't stop, the reading of the Quran didn't stop, the prayers didn't stop. It was just we weren't going to the masjid anymore. And that was the only thing that really changed. But even then, we were still able to pray Taraweeh at home. We were still able to do, wake up for tahajjud and connect to the Quran. So the circumstances only changed to one segment of the Quran, of Ramadan, was the communal part of going to the masjid and praying Taraweeh and the 5 daily prayers. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy was through COVID also, that we got to spend more time with our family. We were able to work from home. We connected more to the Quran and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we were home and we weren't wasting time traveling or doing other things that we might have been caught up with other years. So I think it was a time of pause and reset who we are and what it is that we were doing in life at that point.
حتما اگه میخواستین در فارسی هم بگین خوب میشن.
بله. پارسال در وقت رمضان که کووید آمده بود، سر ما یک ذره سختی تیر شد که ما کوشش میکردیم که بفهمیم که چی باید بکنیم، چی نکنیم و چی تغییر میآید. و در آخر فهمیدیم که یعنی روزه باید بگیریم، نماز خدا بخوانیم، قرآن شریف خدا بخوانیم. کل از این چیزا دمو خانه یعنی ما کردیم. تو نیست که این چیزا استارت شد از خاطر کووید. یگانه چیزی که تبدیل شد که ما مسجد رفتن نمیتونستیم، که کلگی دیگه در جمعه یا جماعت نماز خواندن نمیتونستیم، تراویح نمیتونستیم در مسجد، مگر رو را در خانه خواندن میتونستیم و کردیم کل ما. یگانه وقت بود که ما زیادتر وقت داشتیم در خانه، که فامیل خود زیادتر که قرآن شریف خود نزدیک کردیم. و این وقت بود که الله سبحانه و تعالی بر ما یک از امور رحمت خود بر ما پیش آوردن که ما در خانه امی کل کارهای خود کرده بتانیم و امی زندگی که خیر ما میدویم آلیت شد که ما در خانه هستیم و امی سایکل خود را ریست کردیم که ما پس از اثر یک ذره جان بگیریم و خود یک ذره تفریح بدیم و پس امو روان که غیر هستیم در زندگی یک ذره سلو داون کنیم و زندگی خود یک ذره آستا بیاریم، در دویدن پیش آمد نباشیم و امی ریلیشنشیپ خداوند الله سبحانه و تعالی نزدیک کنیم.
من تشکر نسا جان. و همچنان یکی از این آمادگی که من شخصا خوش دارم که بگیرم پیش از ماه مبارک رمضان، خوش دارم که نیت خود صاف کنم. پس از سر نیت بسازم که بغیر از اینکه روزه میگیرم ماه رمضان هستم، اما بخشش بخوایم از پیش هر کس یا کدام غلطی اگه کرده باشم، کدام سو کرده باشم، از پیش یک کسی معذرت بخوایم. So one of the ways that I personally like to prepare pre-Ramadan is renewing my intention. I think it's really important to not only make the intention that you're going to be fasting for the month of Ramadan, but really renew your intention as a Muslim, as what it is that you want to do beyond giving up food and drink and relations. There's more to it than that. There's the element of forgiveness, of mercy, of kindness. So I do like to reach out to people probably later on today or in a little bit. I will be posting my annual forgive me if I have done anything wrong or any wrongdoings in order to be able to also be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guru Nisarjan, is there something that you also suggest to do or something that you personally do to prepare pre-Ramadan for this holy month?
I think physically, emotionally getting ourselves ready is important also, in that you don't want to just throw yourself into Ramadan and then be kind of off of it for a couple of days. So what a lot of the scholars recommend is like 10 days before, maybe fast a couple of those days, or cut down on the eating, change your eating habits. And Ramadan's iftar is not supposed to be a splurge of fancy foods and fried food or food that's not healthy. You're supposed to really watch what you're eating and just break your fast and not consume a lot of food. It kind of defeats the purpose if you're fasting and at the end of Ramadan you end up gaining 20 pounds. We obviously didn't do something right. So it's self-restraint, it's self-discipline, not just from a spiritual perspective, but from a physical perspective also, in what we're eating and what we're putting inside our body, but also obviously how we're growing spiritually as well. So watching our food intake, changing our diet, increasing our water intake, all of these things will help so that by the time Ramadan does come, we're not struggling. And usually water is a big issue. Being hydrated is definitely important. Connecting yourself to the Quran is always a great thing. And making intentions, like you said, is great as well, obviously. But also make a list of things you want to do during Ramadan. For instance, small tasks that you want to carry out during Ramadan, and then that practice time that you have during Ramadan will help you inculcate those things that you want in your life throughout the year. For instance, let's say you want to read 1 or 2 pages of the Quran every day during Ramadan. You do that for the month, and then that becomes like a habit, right? When you're doing it for a month, it becomes a habit. It's your training period, and then you're able to keep it throughout the year. And this is a huge component of Ramadan, that we're supposed to have these changes in our lives that we can actually use throughout the year. So connecting to the Quran is a huge deal, because Ramadan is the month that the Quran was revealed, and it's a huge blessing of a month for us as Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and we know from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time how he was even more generous and more forgiving during Ramadan, as an example. So we have to use these times to inculcate that into our lives. But intentions, and make small little goals that you want to achieve during Ramadan, so that you can keep it consistent throughout the year. Change is important, that when you come out of Ramadan, that you have those changes within yourselves, whatever it may be. Each person is different, and I can't tell anybody what to do in terms of that, those little tasks that they want to accomplish. But it's great to have those things, because you do want to come out of Ramadan as a new person in whatever amount of change that may be. وقت رمضان یک وقت است که آدم باید خود در قرآن شریف نزدیک کنه و در الله سبحانه تعالی نزدیک کنه. و ما یگان چیزایی که میگم چیزاست که ما هر روز یک در روز مانده که کلا میتونیم که وقتی که رمضان شروع میشه بر ما سخت نشه، که او خوردن خود یک ذره زیادتر کنیم، نان سریعتر بخوریم در کل روز، نان خوردن خود یک ذره کم کنیم، که بدن ما در کم خوردن و چیزا یک ذره عادت کنه. و چند چیز نشته کنین که شما میخواین که در ماه رمضان در زندگیتان داخل کنین، که رمضان که خلاص شد با وجودش که نباشه، شما هنوز هم این چیزا را میکنین. مثال اگر هر روز بعد از نماز فجر یک صفحه قرآن شریف بخوانین در عربی و ترجمانش هم بخوانین، هر روز که ایره بکنین، میفهمین که بعد از یک ماه یک قسم برتون سکجول میشه، برتون عادت میشه، و یگانه چیز است که کل سال هم کده میتونین. یا اگر شما میخواین که زیادتر صلوات برای محمد صلی الله علیه و سلم بخونین 100 دفعه در روز، او رو کده میتونین کلش نشته کنین پیش از رمضان، که وقتی که رمضان باز که باز میفهمین که چی چیزا رو میخواین که تعمل کنین یا در زندگیتان داخل کنین و از اسکیجولتان باز یک ماه که میکنین باز براتون بسیار آسان میشه که در 11 ماه دیگه این چیزا را کده بتانین و یک چینج بیارین، یک تغییرات بیارین در زندگیتان که در کل سال کده بتانین کده برای خود.
بسیار خوب. این گپتان اورنسا جان بسیار خوشم آمد که گفتین که ماه مبارک رمضان اینطور نیست که یک ماه باشه که باز شما در او یک ماه عبادت خود بکنین، باز بعد از او پس در معالت نرمال خود برین و دیگه فراموش کنین. قرآن عظیم شام که هسته برای ما سالانه است و همه هر روز است و برای یک ماه در سال نیست. ماه هسته که این توفه برای ما داده شده و از اونو خاطر ما زیاد کوشش میکنیم که عبادت خود زیاد کنیم در اون وقت. اما با معنای از این نیست که باز در دیگه 11 ماه که باقی مانده میمانه ما خدای نخواسته او را فراموش کنیم و بهترین وقت است که اینمی عادت ها را شروع کنیم و باز بعد از اون نگاه کنیم برای باقی مانده سال خود. و همچنان راجع به زمین که صحبت میکردین که آدم وجود خود آماده بسازه، یا مثلا یک چیز مهم است اگه شما متوجه شوین نورنسا جان حتما در تلویزیون جایا و در مجله خواندین که intermittent fasting است، روزه گرفتن آل یک مود شده برای امریکایا و اروپایا که یک رژیم وارسته و آل پسان چیزی را که ما 2000 سال پیش میفهمیدیم، آل پسان امریکایی‌ها میگن که بسیار بر وجودت فایده داره و مثلا وزن میبازی یا وجودت یک تفریح کار داره که از این که همیشه نان هضم میکنه یک تفریح خاص کار داره و این که است بسیار یک چیز جالب است و که آل مردم متوجه شدن. I'm going to switch it back to English really quick so I don't lose some of the translation. But what you were saying earlier about habit forming, right? So Ramadan is not meant to be this month which I see in a lot of people, God bless, myself probably included, because we are very absent-minded as humans. We tend to spend the month in ibadah and then the next month comes and we kind of just go about our way. But Ramadan was not designed for that. Ramadan was designed that it is the month of Quran, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the Quran during this month, but he did not say that this is only for this month. This is meant for us to focus and then to use what we have learned and what we have gained for the rest and the remainder of the year, for the other 11 months that are left over. So be mindful of that. Also, there's this thing where intermittent fasting is a trend now, right? People in the West are starting to say, okay, it's great for your health. You're giving your digestive system a break. Guess what? We knew this, 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years, we already knew this, right? This is not news for us. But it's interesting that it's become this trend and that there's the scientific elaborate research that's done that I've read when I do some of my holistic health talks. There's so many different projects that have been done with regards to the benefits of fasting and what it is exactly. But I also like earlier what you said about easing your body into this, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm a big heavy coffee drinker. So if I don't drink coffee first thing in the morning, I will get a very bad headache because my body is now addicted to the caffeine. So what I will do is when we wake up for Fajr, I will have a cup of coffee, right now during that time to ease my body into it. Come Ramadan, of course, you can, during sahur, you can have that cup of coffee or that cup of caffeination along with your water to stay hydrated, but really so that your body has a little bit in it and you're not going through this withdrawal. Because when your body is addicted to caffeine, you do go through a withdrawal, and it could be very tolling on your head, and you can get headaches and eye aches and such. So that's one of the ways that I like to ease my body into it. Also, this week, like you were saying before, perhaps follow the Sunnah Monday, Thursday. Perhaps tomorrow try to fast, and Thursday try to fast. So at least when we start next week officially, the week after, then at least we will be fully, at least our body has had that chance to be able to practice that. So that's another way that we can prepare. Also, another thing I would suggest is to lessen our intake, maybe eliminate snacks this week, eliminate the in between meals. Because I don't know about you, I don't know, Sajan, but I'm a big snacker. I'd rather have snacks than to have sit down meals. I love my snacking, especially there's certain periods of time when I feel my energy levels going down and I just have to grab something to snack on. And maybe this week, Monday through Friday, you can just take out those snacks. و همچنان میتونین یک چیز دیگه وجود خود آماده بسازین که بغیر سه غذایی که برای چاشت و شو و صبح میخورین، در بین از او یگان چیزهای دیگه که میخورین، چیپس میخورین یا یک ذره نخود میخورین یا یک ذره بادام میخورین، میوه خشک میخورین، اونها رو آستاستا در این هفته قطع کنین، در این هفته هیچ نخورین. اگه امو روزام گرفتن نمیتونین، روزهای دیگر غذای دیگر که میخورین در بینش سنکایی که میخوردین امو رو در این هفته کوشش کنین که یا نخورین یا کم کنین تا آستاستا وجودت آماده باشه. So I hope that some of that kind of helps. So now, Sajan, we're going to move on to the spiritual aspect of fasting, right? So we talked about the food and the drink and renewing our intentions, but let's talk a little bit about the spiritual aspect of fasting during Ramadan. What does that mean to you? حالا خود تمام کردیم راجع به غذام گپ زدیم، راجع به کافی او چیزا صحبت کردیم. اینا رو میخوایم که راجع به دینی گپ بزنیم که به نظر شما چی میتونه آدم بکنه و چی مهم است.
Tashakar for John. Thank you. So, yeah, the spirituality of Ramadan is, it's such a blessing when we think about it, of God's mercy that He gave us this month to really, for us to set back our clocks, to rejuvenate our iman and our taqwa, our belief in God and our God, being God conscious. That's really important, and connecting ourselves to the Quran. And reading more Quran, waking up for tahajjud, always being mindful is really important. And it's interesting because at Adams, Imam Majid talked about Imam Ghazali and the three different kinds of fasting, right? One is the average fast, where you just fast from food and drink and, conjugal relationships with your spouse. And that's the average fast, like that's the minimum you can do. Then there's the special fast, where you do all those things, but you refrain from backbiting, you refrain from gossip, you control your tongue as well as other parts of your body, and in addition to the fasting and the restraining of the food and the drinks and whatnot, addition to that, the average fast, and then there's the fast where you're constantly steadfast on being God conscious, right? You're doing all the other two, and then everything you do throughout the day is about being God conscious. So you're thinking, oh, should I do this? Will God be okay with me? Will God be happy with me? Should I not do this? What should I do to make God happy for me, God happy with me? And that you're constantly thinking about that throughout the day. And that's the level we should try to strive for, right? That we're not just fasting from food and drink and our desires, We're praying, we're reading more Quran, but we're also being mindful of what we're doing and what we can do to make God even more happy with us. So charity, working somewhere where they're in need, people giving out iftar, community service. These are all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, right? Like we're helping those who are in need. Ramadan is a month where, there's so many people who are struggling financially, even now during COVID, and there are organizations who are helping. So maybe you could reach out to them and ask how you can help, and facilitate some kind of comfort to some other families that are really struggling at this time. And so these three things really resonated with me because we can try to strive even better. Sometimes we don't think we're backbiting, and then we realize, oh yeah, we are backbiting like that. I don't think that person would like me saying that about them. So you just keep your mouth closed. Like it's not necessary, like shut out things from your life that are a distraction, whether it's music or TV or shows that are just not appropriate for you to grow as a person. یگانه چیز که امام مجید که من خودم کچان کار میکنم بر ما راهنمایی کردن که امام غزالی گفته بودن که 3 قسم روزه است. یکیش از روزه عادی است که آدم نان نمیخوره، او نمیخوره، نوشیدن نداره و کارهای دیگه که زن شوهر نمیشه در وقت روزه در روز، یعنی کم از کم اینمی کارا میکنیم. دومش است که روزه سپیشل است که سر از روزه عادی ما غیبت نمی کنیم، گپ خراب نمیزنیم، دل یک کس نمیشکنانیم و واقعا هر چیزی که از دان ما میبره ما در او بسیار متوجه میباشیم که ما چی میگیم، برای کی میگیم. همین مهم است که من میادم گپ بزنم یا نه. یگانه چیز است که ما باید بفهمیم در سپیشل روزه که است. روزه سیوم است که دو روزه اول هم میکنین، سر از او هر چیزی که شما میکنین در روز هر وقت فکر میکنین که الله سبحانه و تعالی از من خوش است که من این کار کنم یا نه، من چی قدم میدانم که الله سبحانه و تعالی از من خوش شود، من چی بکنم و چی بگویم که من واقعا میخوایم که الله سبحانه و تعالی از من خوش باشه. ای که در مسجد والنتیر کنین یا در یک جایی که دیگران را افطار میتن، یا اگر پیسه داشته باشین پیسه داده میتونین که نفرایی که خصوصا از طرف کووید سرشان سختی آمده باشه، یا میخواین که در افغانستان یا یک ملک دیگه پیسه روان کنین که بر از وام یک ذره سهولت شوه، چون میخواین که الله سبحانه و تعالی در این ماه اشما بسیار خوش شوه و ما باید کوشش کنیم که در این منطقه برسیم که ما در کل روز از باره رابطه خود که الله سبحانه و تعالی از بارش فکر میکنیم. در هر گپ که شوه که خیستیم شیشتیم چی کده میتونم که یعنی هر وقت زبان ما و فکر ما در یاد الله سبحانه و تعالی باید باشه. So I think like being conscious of God in Ramadan is so important because again, it's like a training period, right? Like when you're doing it for so long, it should become habit for the rest of the year. Ramadan ends, but the habit shouldn't end. یعنی رمضان یک ماه است که میایه و میره، مگر امو چیزایی که ما یاد میگیریم در اسکیجول ما دمو 30 روز درون میشه و ما هر روز میکنیم، ما نمیته که 30 روز که خلاص شد ما اینا رو استاد میکنیم. نه، باید دوام بدیم که یک عادت بسیار خوب است که ما در کل سال کرده بتانیم.
من تشکر نصر جان و چیزایی که شما گفتین بسیار مهم است و تشکر از اینکه ما را متوجه ساختین از این 3 رقم روزه. ما نمیفهمیدیم که چند رقم راسته که آدم میتونه روزه بگیره و همچنان 3 طبقه داره ماه مبارک رمضان که ما مخصوصا بسیار یک چیز زیباست به نظر من و پیغمبر مسیح سلام گفته که در شروع رمضان در روز اول که می باشه زیاد آدم رحمت نشان میده، زیاد آدم باید است که بسیار زیاد بسیار چی باشه مرسیفول باشه و این وقت است بسیار سخت است، مخصوصا مثلا ما خودت مادر هستیم بسیار زیاد حوصله ما امتحان میشه مخصوصا در وقت روزه بغیر از اینکه نان ها و دیگه چیزها را از دست میدیم، بغیر از او مثلا اخلاق خود باید بسیار تاپ نگاه کنیم. مثلا گپ بد زده نمیتونیم، غیبت باید نکنیم. این چیزها سختتر است از تنها روزه گرفتن کده، تنها از نان و او خوردن کده. این چیزها سختتر است که ما زبان خود کنترل کنیم، چیزی که از دان ما میبراید و چیزی که میگیم. این سختترین چیز است به نظر من. زبان نگاه کردن اصلا از همه چیز که گپ بد کسی رو نگیم، گفتی خودت غیبت نکنیم، یک چیز غلط نبرایه که روزی ما نشکنه. این بسیار یک چالش بزرگ است. و بعد از او که هسته دارو زدگیش که هسته برای وقت است که ما میبخشیم یکی دیگه خدا و همچنان دعا میکنیم که خداوند تعالی ما را ببخشه و گناه ما را ببخشه. این بسیار سخت است. وقت است که بغیر از این که خدا میفهمه در کارش، اما ما باید کوشش کنیم که یکی دیگه خدا ببخشیم. برای از که اگه خداوند تعالی میتونه ما را ببخشه، ما خو یک انسان هستیم، یک بندش هستیم، ما خو بیخی باید ببخشیم یکی دیگه خدا. این یک چیزی بسیار سخت است به نظر من از نگاه روانی، که یک انسان یک کار بسیار یک ظلم بسیار کلان سر یک کس بکنه یا یک کار بسیار خراب بکنه، باز ما او رو ببخشیم. به نظر من بسیار سخت است. یک چیز واقعا انسان برای یک انسان سخت است که کسی رو ببخشه. و سیام از این چیز بود که در آخر مثلا خداوند تعالی دعا میکنیم که ما را نجات بده از دوزخ و از از همه چیزهایی که منفی می باشد در دنیا. یا بسیار یک چیز مهم است که متوجه شویم. So absolutely, the spiritual aspect of Ramadan is so much deeper than just giving things up, right? And I feel and I believe that it's a lot easier to give up food and drink and relations than it is to um, give up or to be mindful of what comes out of your mouth. The tongue is the hardest thing to control. The tongue is the thing that gets us in the most trouble. It's so hard not to stop from backbiting, to stop from saying bad words, to have patience with our children. We're mothers. It's so hard to display that level of patience with people when our patience is being tried because we're fasting. And Ramadan, some people argue that this is a weak hadith. Some people say that it's a stronger hadith. It really depends on what school of thought. And I'm not a scholar, so I have to make that clear. But it is said that Rasulullah has divided up the month into three, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed that this month, each 10 days has a specific theme. And the first one would be mercy and forgiveness and emancipation from the hellfire. Whether you believe that hadith or not, it's still a beautiful thing to have mercy upon each other, to be kind, to be loving. It's very hard to do when you're fasting and you're all being tried. To forgive, I believe, as a human being, personally, forgiveness is the hardest thing. I struggle with that a lot. People who have wronged me personally, I try very, very hard, but it's a very difficult hurdle to overcome. So try to forgive, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He in His infinite mercy and His greatness is able to forgive us, then we should certainly be able to forgive each other. And of course, praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves us from the azab an-nar, or the hellfire, and the consequences of the akhirah. These are really important things that we have to be mindful of, and that make Ramadan such a beautiful time of the year and such a beautiful kind of aspect. So Udunisa John, I know last year we did this because we were in a pandemic and it was a lot of fun, and we also want to make sure that our children are gaining as much as they possibly can. And I know for smaller children, it may not be the same feeling if they're not necessarily fasting or they're not able to partake. I know we've adapted some family traditions where every time that we would sit around and we would do iftar, we would read the hadith of the day, or we would have this Quran Jeopardy. We also had some games like Kahoot, certain things that we did um, during the iftar time. We started this last year in order to show um, that this month is our blessed month and that we should really try to do extra things to make it fun. There's nothing wrong with making Ramadan fun for us. We're not supposed to be miserable the entire month or be sad or, و همچنان ما بسیار کوشش کردیم که اگر رواج now پارسال در فامیل ما جور کردیم چون پندمیک بودیم و هولادارا میخواستیم که یاد بدیم و یاد بگیرن قرآن جپردی در وقت افطار چی میکردیم میخواندیم یگان سوالا رو بر اولادا میدادیم که جواب بدن یا از این که کوشش میکردیم که کهوت بازی کنیم راجع به اسلام ببینیم اگه سوالا جواب را اولادا میفهمیدن. Are there any family traditions or traditions in general that you recommend that people adapt during Ramadan?
That's a really great, fun question. I just wanted to get back to what I was saying before about the three types of fasting. I forgot to mention that the last one where we're constantly conscious of God is because we're building a relationship with Him through the Quran. Inculcating and bringing Quran into our daily schedule is really, really important during Ramadan because we're consciously connecting to Him through His books, through His book, right? And the Quran, and making sure that we're reading the Quran with translation and trying to understand it. And that helps us become more conscious of Him in our daily activities as well. So Quran during this month is a huge and most important aspect of what we're doing. And when we're denying ourselves food and drink and relationship, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gearing us from staying away from things that are forbidden, right? We can control ourselves during this month from all these things. We can control ourselves throughout the year from staying away from things that are sinful as well. And that's another added benefit that we get from Ramadan. ما میخواستم که بگویم از باره 3 قسم روزه که هستم و آخرینش که هست که ما هر وقت از باره الله سبحانه تعالی فکر میکنیم در روز که ما باید سر از او که در قرآن شریف یک رابطه باید داشته باشیم. هر روز بخوانیم که در ترجمهش و بفهمیم که الله سبحانه تعالی چی میگه و هر وقت خدا یادآوری کنیم که ما باید قرآن شریف بخوانیم و الله سبحانه تعالی بر ما چی یاد میده، چه قسم باید آدم باشیم، چیزا باید بکنیم که ما انشالله و آخرت ما و دنیای ما خوب باشه. این رابطه ما که هست که یعنی که ما آدم وقت روزه میگیریم، نان نمیخوریم، چیز نمیشنوشیم، که زن شوهر که یکی خود روز رابطه ندارن قسمی و این کلش یک ترینینگ است، یک یاد میگیریم که همون چیزای دیگه که الله سبحانه تعالی گفتن که نکنیم و بر ما گناه است، یک ترینینگ است برای زو چیزام که ما یعنی آلوده ماه رمضان نمیکنیم، یعنی بعد از این همون چیزایی که الله سبحانه تعالی نمیخواین که ما بکنیم وارم از دست داده میتونیم. مثال اگر یگان تا شراب میخوره در ماه رمضان اگر خود از اون چیزا دور کنه خدا میتونه که در 11 ماه دیگه هم خود از شراب دور کنه. یعنی یگان ترینینگ است که الله سبحانه تعالی بر ما میتد، یک وقت است که ما ازش خوب استفاده کرده میتونیم. So we're back at the question of doing fun things with the family. I'm all about fun because kids, honestly, there's only so much you can do to keep them entertained and keep them interested in something. So I decorate my house as much as I can. I have Ramadan Kareem signs. There's a couple in Canada who just came out with a company, I forgot the name, but they make these, those big air blow up things that they have during Christmas of Santa Claus. People put it up. So I ordered one for Ramadan. It's like a big cloud and it says Ramadan Kareem. And then there's a, crescent moon on the side. I got it. So I'm going to blow that up once Ramadan comes and put it in front of my house, because during Christmas, everybody else puts all their lights and decorations and we're like the only ones on the block that doesn't. And during Ramadan, we're the only ones who have stuff on. And then I also put like this green light, it's solar panel light charged around the handles of my stairs outside is green. For Ramadan, I put that on. And the great thing is I don't have to turn it on and off. It's solar panel charge, so it charges during the day by itself, and then at night it goes on. And then there's different settings, like you could change the lights going off together or at one time or blinking. And it's great because it shows people that like, oh hey, it's Ramadan, right? That this is our month and this is what we're doing. I have, just activities that I try to do with the kids in terms of talking to them about Ramadan and mostly listening to them. I think we tend to talk too much as adults and we don't listen. So we need to give the children the opportunity to talk. And even if it's just one thing they want to say, like how they felt during the day, if they fasted for 3 hours, that's great. Like it's not fun for them to be fasting, but sometimes they want to do it. So they're like, oh, can I fast for 3 hours? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Fast for 3 hours if you want. Or, some children, they can't fast when they're young. And how do you form that habit? I think the best thing is to set an example by yourself. Like when you're doing it, they watch you. If you're reading Quran, make sure they see you. When you're praying, make sure they see you. So that even though if they're not doing it at that point, and sometimes kids steer away for a little bit when they get a little older, like in their high school ages, away from some of the rituals that we're supposed to do. But when they constantly seeing you do it, it's a reminder for them, right? That, oh yeah, that is what we're supposed to do. یگانه چیزی که من در خانه میکنم که دخترایم خانه را دکوریت میکنم، ساین دارم که رمضان کریم، یعنی اولادای میفهمن که این ماه رمضان است. یگان تا 30 تا بلونز جور میکنن برای هر شو، یک تا بلون پاپ میکنن، یا 30 تا قوطیگکای شیرینی دارن، هر شو قوطی را واز میکنن، از او کلگی شیرینی را میخوره. یعنی بسیار چیزاست در پارتی سری. اگر برین بسیار یعنی دکوریشن چیزای بسیار معمول هم است برای رمضان و عید. یگانه چیز دیگه که خودم میکنم و دست بیرون نمو جایی که زینه است، مقسم چراغ گرفتیم که سبز است، بود شو چالان میشه خودش. یک شب پیش از رمضان ما او را جور میکنم، باز هر شب خودش چالان میشه برای 30 روز. کل همسایه میفهمه که یعنی یا مسلمان هستن روزه میگیرن. و یگانه چیز دیگه که مثال ما اوردر کردم از یک کمپانی در کانادا که قسم چیز کلان است که اگر شما دیده باشین در کریسمس وقت عیسویا در پیشی خانه خود میمونن، یک چیز کلان است از سانتا کلاus یا رینډیر، او را درونش امی هوا باد میکنن و کلان میشه. بازی یک چیز است که تو مثل ابروارست جور کردن، باز در او رمضان کریم نشته است، با پالوش یک تا چیز ماتاب وارد چیز جور کردن. باز او را تو که در ماشین چیز میکنین در برق و خود کلان میکنه، باز او را در پیش روی خانه تا میمانین. ما از او خریدم که امسال او را بالم پیش روی خانه که کلگی بفهمه که یعنی در خانه ما مسلمان هستیم و ما رمضان سلبریت میکنیم که برای اولادا یک چیز بسیار یعنی خوب باشه و خوش شوند ازش. یگانه چیز دیگه است که در اولادای خود گپ بزنین از باره اسلام و رمضان. مگر زیادتر که شما گپ بزنین بهتر است که اولادایتان بالین گپ بزنن. بسیاری وقت ما غیر لکچر میدیم اولادای خود و هیچ وقت از بارش نمیمانیم شونه که گپ بزنن، گپشون گوش کنیم. گفتم میتونیم که یعنی امروز چی فکر کردی، چه قسم روز تیر شد. یگان اولادایی که خود خورد هستن میخواین که 2 ساعت 3 ساعت روزه بگیرن، اگه بتونن، اگه میخواین کدام گپ نیست که میتونن برشان یک تا پرکتیس میشه. و از طرف از این که اولادایتان گپ هم زده میتونین از باری چیزا ازشان پرسان کنین، بانین که خودشان گپ بزن، از اینکه خودتان گپ بزنین. و سر از این که آدم اگه میخواد که اولادای خود یعنی نماز بخونه، روزه بگیره، چیزای خوب کنه از چیز دین اسلام، اولاد باید دیده خودش در خانه ببینه از طرف خود ما. یعنی ما اگر مادر پدر خود ما نماز نخونیم، خود ما روزه نگیریم، و اولاد از چی یاد میگیره؟ میگه که خودت نمیخونی، مرا میگه که بخون. باید نشان بدیم. با وجودی که اما وقت اولادا نمیخوانن یا نمیخواین که بخونن، مگر دیدن بسیار مهم است، چون که برشان یک تا ریمایندر میشه که او در خانه ما نفر است که روزه میگیره و نماز میخونه. یک گپ بسیار مهم است که ببینن که باز کلان که شون، باز میگن که نه مادر پدرم مادرم یا پدرم یا دوشان روزه میگرفت و نماز میخواندن و من باید این کارا رو کنم.
بسیار عالی، تشکر بسیار زیاد تورین نسا جان. بازم همیشه وقت خود برای ما میتین و نصیحت های بسیار خوب برای ما میتین. تشکر یک جهان سپاس. Thank you so much for being so giving of your time every month. We really appreciate all of your important words, and we can't wait to see you again next month. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I do wish you a happy Ramadan, inshallah, filled with barakah and happiness and health. بازم از طرف صدای حق تلویزیون تشکر بسیار زیاد از وقتتان و ما مبارک رمضان برای شما تبریکی میتونم و به همه بینندگان ما انشالله که در روز باد هسته و پروگرامینگ ما برای 4 هفته دیگر راجع به رمضان می باشه. We will try our best to have the next 4 weeks programming to be circled and focused around Ramadan and different aspects of Ramadan. So thanks again, and we hope to see you soon. اگه کدام سوال داشته باشین برای اورینسا جان در زیر اسکرین ما میتونین که کامنت نشته کنین و همچنان نمره تلفن است میتونین که زنگ بزنین. If you have any questions for Horinisa John, there is a comments section below. You may write down any questions or comments that you have. And there's also a phone number if you would like to call and to ask any questions. You're welcome to do so. بازم از طرف صدای حق تلویزیون در هر نقاط دنیا که هستین و می باشین خوش و آرام باشین. تشکر، روز شب خوش. خدا حافظ.
تشکر فرشته جان. Ramadan Kareem to you too.